I want them to see Jesus. I want them to see you. But the pain I felt was all those people in the world that do not love him, all his children that do not love him. Yeah. Well, I'll love him.
Jim Caviezel isn't your typical Hollywood actor. He stepped into a role that changed his whole life and challenged the world's view of faith. When confronted by atheist interviewers, he didn't just defend his beliefs. He confronted them head-on with a powerful certainty that stunned everyone watching. What happens when a man who has literally suffered in the name of his faith stops holding back? This isn't just about religion or debate. It's about the raw, unshakable conviction of someone who has lived what he preaches, and that story is far from ordinary. The unexpected challenge. When Jim Caviezel faced atheist interviewers, it wasn't just another media appearance. The cameras were rolling, the lights were warm, and the atmosphere initially felt calm and respectful. But the moment the discussion turned to faith, the tone shifted. One host leaned forward and asked with a subtle smirk, "Do you actually believe all that Jesus stuff, or was it just acting?" The question was more than casual skepticism. It was a direct challenge to Caviezel's identity and convictions. His response was brief but powerful. "I don't just believe it. I've lived it." Those 5 words instantly ignited conversation across the internet, drawing millions into what became far more than a typical interview. As the hosts pressed further, questioning whether faith was mythology or even problematic in a modern scientific world, Caviezel didn't retreat. He remained calm and resolute, refusing to dilute his beliefs. His answers went beyond defending religion. They confronted deeper questions many prefer to avoid: suffering, purpose, and truth. This was no actor simply protecting a role. Caviezel's words revealed a personal journey forged through hardship and sacrifice, one that had reshaped him long before the cameras turned on. His certainty wasn't rehearsed, it was lived. The tension in the room made that clear, as belief and skepticism collided in real time. Rather than offering safe or polished answers, Caviezel challenged the conversation itself. Faith, he implied, isn't meant to be hidden or softened for comfort. It demands courage, clarity, and the willingness to stand firm in environments that may be openly hostile to it. His quiet confidence unsettled both the hosts and the audience, creating a moment charged with meaning. As clips of the interview spread online, viewers began to see the man behind the headlines. This wasn't someone seeking approval or applause. Caviezel spoke as someone convinced the issue at stake was eternal, not merely intellectual. The subtle shift in the interview's mood marked something deeper, a moment not everyone could articulate, but many could feel. What appeared to be a respectful discussion was, beneath the surface, a silent battle between faith and doubt. Caviezel's refusal to compromise transformed the exchange into a testament of courage and conviction. And behind those 5 simple words lay a deeper story, one of pain, sacrifice, transformation, and calling. This was more than an interview, it was a defining stand. Transitioning from confrontation to the crucible, where Caviezel's journey truly began, we look next at the intense trials behind his unshakable belief. Suffering beyond acting. Jim Caviezel's experience on the set of The Passion of the Christ was unlike any other film role in history. Far from mere acting, it was a physical, emotional, and spiritual ordeal that tested the limits of his body and soul. Filmed in the rugged hills of Matera, Italy, the production demanded extreme realism, pushing Caviezel into genuine suffering to portray Christ's final hours. During the grueling crucifixion scene, Caviezel was literally struck by lightning, an event he described as a blinding flash and an electric jolt seizing his entire body. Such moments weren't just frightening, they felt like confirmation that this role was more than a performance. Caviezel came to believe it was a divine calling, a mission chosen for him. That profound realization marked a turning point. As if physical hardship weren't enough, he also endured pneumonia in the freezing temperatures and suffered a dislocated shoulder while carrying the cross. One lash from the scourging scene left a 14-inch scar on his neck, a permanent reminder of the depth of pain he embraced. Many actors would have quit, yet Caviezel stayed, committed to the role and its meaning despite the cost. Beyond the physical trials, Caviezel experienced profound spiritual moments, including what he described as several visits from Jesus during filming. These visits were deeply personal and mysterious, showing him visions and warnings about the choices ahead. He spoke of witnessing symbolic face cards representing souls, a reminder of the eternal stakes at play. It was a spiritual struggle intertwined with his daily reality on set. The actor's discomfort, Jim Caviezel, was not something to be endured without a reason. Rather, it was, as he described it, purifying. When he was questioned if God indeed intended for him to take this role with all the suffering, he assertively stated that suffering is loaded with meaning, one that is quite often ignored in secular worldviews. Such a strong belief was, in fact, a real challenge to the common perception that pain is nothing but bad luck or meaningless suffering. For Caviezel, it was a sort of pilgrimage to the divine. Nonetheless, the price he had to pay for it in terms of his health was extremely high. Years after the end of the shooting, burnout, which was caused by the filming, took its toll, and he went through open-heart surgery. His scars were not only the reminders of the physical pain he had gone through, they were also the visible signs of a silent spiritual struggle that was taking place alongside the production. This level of sacrifice only served to emphasize that Caviezel's faith was not that of a casual believer, but one committed to the struggle of a martyr. This very close link between his character and his faith completely transformed everything. What was first seen as an acting assignment turned later on to a complete identification with Christ's suffering and mission. Caviezel was not just acting out a story, he was communicating the message through his own life in such a way that it forever changed his viewpoint. It was the groundwork for the fearless stand that he later took in public interviews. The transition from physical pain to spiritual enlightenment was what molded Caviezel's character, and it was a preparation for the backlash and solitude that were to come afterward. His metamorphosis was not only for himself, but also served to open up the way to a public battle where the stakes were not only those involving the film, but also moral issues of greater import. When faith costs everything, the world's response can often be harsh. Caviezel's story of sacrifice led to consequences that tested his resolve in unexpected ways. Facing backlash and isolation. Jim Caviezel's unwavering faith has come at a steep price within Hollywood's often unforgiving environment. After portraying one of the most iconic religious figures on screen, he found himself marginalized and even cancelled in some circles for refusing to compromise his beliefs. His boldness didn't bring applause from the industry, but rather professional setbacks. Roles were lost, opportunities shrank, and favor faded away. Yet Caviezel held fast. He openly acknowledges that his faith cost him career momentum, but he refuses to trade his soul for temporary gain. Unlike many celebrities who shy away from religion to protect their image, he chose instead to stand openly and defiantly. That choice isolated him, but also defined his mission. This resistance wasn't limited to Hollywood's backstage dealings, but extended to a broader cultural skepticism and even hostility toward outspoken Christianity. Caviezel has spoken widely about how standing firm in faith often means facing rejection, ridicule, and misunderstanding. The cost of being bold sometimes means losing friends or followers, but to him, that is a small price compared to forsaking his convictions. Behind the scenes, Caviezel experienced profound loneliness, recalling moments where his beliefs made him a target of exclusion. Yet, in that isolation, he found a deeper connection to Christ, one that sustained him through the challenges. This experience shaped his message to other believers. Don't apologize for your faith or water it down for approval. His encouragement is clear. Expect resistance. Expect people to push back, but keep going anyway. Caviezel calls it a spiritual rebellion against the despair and lies that pervade a culture eager to silence truth. He urges Christians to rise with authority and power, not arrogance, standing as lights in a world growing darker. Far from chasing celebrity martyrdom, Caviezel understands martyrdom as a lesson from early Christians who faced lions fearlessly because they knew what they died for. Today, he says, many are afraid of losing social media followers, missing the bigger picture of what true faith demands. His own experience is a call to courage and boldness. Despite the professional and personal price, Caviezel remains resolute. "They can take everything from me, but they can't take my soul," he says. This profound statement reveals a man who has reconciled loss with eternal purpose. It is a testimony that resonates deeply in a world hungry for genuine conviction. Through facing opposition and isolation, Jim Caviezel's faith was tested, and it only grew stronger, setting the stage for the bold truth he would declare without hesitation. The power of bold faith. Jim Caviezel's faith is anything but timid. He challenges believers to reject fear and live boldly, embodying a Christianity that is vibrant and unashamed. In interviews and speeches, he emphasizes that Christianity was never meant to be safe or comfortable. Instead, it calls for courage, conviction, and a willingness to stand apart from the crowd, even when that means facing ridicule or rejection. He points to the cultural climate of today, where many Christians hesitate to speak openly for fear of losing followers or social acceptance. Caviezel contrasts this faint-heartedness with the fearless example of the early martyrs, who embraced suffering because they understood the worth of what they believed. His message urges modern believers to move beyond the status quo and live with spiritual authority, not arrogance, but power rooted in truth. To Caviezel, unity among Christians is essential. With the turmoil in society, broken borders, controversial laws, and ideological battles, he sees an urgent call for believers to come together, answer God's call, and actively engage in shaping the future. He warns that without this unity and bold action, spiritual and cultural decay will worsen. But with faith-driven courage, Christians can make a meaningful difference. This isn't just idealism. Caviezel's own journey gives weight to these words. Having endured physical suffering, professional setbacks, and social isolation, he is living proof that boldness in faith can carry a person through trials. He reminds others that faith doesn't mean avoiding hardship. It means facing it with the strength that comes from knowing who you serve. He also confronts the widely accepted prosperity gospel, labeling it a distortion of Christian doctrine. Caviezel, loving the finest things in life, nevertheless makes it obvious that a justified religion implies a willingness to give up everything, including worldly goods, for the sake of a greater cause. This very sacrifice is what Christ exemplified, and thus believers are invited not to be afraid of worldly suffering. The criticism due to his frankness has not made him mute. Rather, he considers that the opposition is a component of the way to his faithfulness. For Caviezel, living otherwise means accepting rejection when the time is due and not compromising the gospel just to be liked. It is a spiritual rebellion against lies and despair, calling for believers to shine like the lamps in a globe that often opts for darkness. His vocal presence connects with a generation that is questioning and is full of fear. By means of his own hardships and his firm beliefs, Caviezel takes Christians on a route to seize their faith with power and purpose. His communication is a challenge that, rather than fleeing, the believers should march on, since their faith is of utmost importance at this hour. It is through his unique character and the things he says that Caviezel encourages the nonconformist believers movement. He highlights that being a person with confidence in God is not only one's personal quality, but also the very necessary reaction to a world that is in desperate need of hope and truth. Being a fearless follower of Christ, he claims, is the most powerful position that anyone can occupy. The true heart of Caviezel's faith becomes even clearer when understanding how he distinguishes personal relationships from empty religion, a distinction that shapes everything he says and does. Distinguishing relationship from religion. For Jim Caviezel, the difference between religion and relationship is profound and foundational. He openly rejects the idea that faith is about following empty traditions or mere cultural norms. Instead, He presents Christianity as a living, dynamic relationship with Jesus Christ, one that transforms from the inside out rather than simply adhering to rules. This distinction matters deeply in a world where religious practice can sometimes feel hollow or performative. Caviezel emphasizes that having a personal connection to Christ means experiencing real change, guidance, and hope. It's not about competing in ritual or ceremony, but engaging in an ongoing journey of faith that touches every part of life. In interviews, he makes clear that he does not equate religion with salvation or spiritual vitality. Many people might identify culturally as Christian without knowing the heart of the gospel, but Caviezel points to personal transformation as the key difference. True faith changes the way a person lives, thinks, and responds to challenges. He also contrasts living faith with cultural Christianity, where religion becomes a safety net or social club, rather than a calling to courage and sacrifice. Caviezel's own story reflects this distinction. His faith cost him jobs, friendships, and popularity, yet it grew stronger because it was rooted in an authentic relationship, not convenience or popularity. This perspective is why Caviezel often talks about faith as a matter of the soul rather than public opinion. He believes that no external success or recognition compares to the eternal significance of having your name written in heaven. His willingness to face hardship comes from knowing his worth before God, not before people. He encourages believers to ask themselves if they are living in a committed relationship with Christ or simply going through religious motions. This reflection challenges those who have settled for comfort or traditions that lack power. To Caviezel, real faith demands surrender, transformation, and daily reliance on Jesus. This understanding also fuels his courage to speak out despite opposition. He knows his authority comes from Jesus, not from human approval. That relationship empowers him to confront falsehoods and stand firm when faith is mocked or dismissed. It's a source of strength that transcends circumstance. The clarity of a living relationship with Christ was the foundation for the lasting impact Caviezel's witness has on believers and skeptics alike. The lasting impact of Jim Caviezel's witness extends far beyond any single interview or film role. It has become a source of inspiration for millions. His story resonates because it's rooted in real sacrifice, courage, and a faith that refuses to be silenced. Rather than fading away after controversy or hardship, his testimony has grown louder, encouraging believers to stand firm and challenging skeptics to reconsider what faith truly means. Many who watch Caviezel speak, even those who do not share his beliefs, are moved by the authenticity and strength behind his words. One atheist admitted they didn't believe what he believed, but respected the passion and conviction he demonstrated. Another viewer said the silence following his powerful statements spoke volumes, showing that sometimes conviction is more potent than argument. This broad impact highlights how personal testimony can transcend ideological barriers. His continuing openness about the trials he faced on and off set, the physical suffering, the professional losses, and the social pushback, gives his message a weight few public figures carry. Caviezel did not shy away from these truths. He embraced them as part of the cost of following what he believes to be God's call. That transparency turns his faith from abstract doctrine into lived reality. Hollywood is rarely kind to those who boldly profess Christian faith, yet Caviezel never retreated. He understood early on that his path would not be easy, but he has repeatedly declared that nothing could take away his soul or his purpose. This steadfastness challenges other believers not to fear rejection or cancellation, but to keep speaking boldly. Caviezel's argument that Christianity was never intended to be a safe option strikes a chord in present-day society. He encourages the faithful to be prepared for the opposition, but at the same time to discard the temptation of all, giving up their beliefs and seeking to be loved or to have an easy life. His invitation to lead lives of authority, bravery, and might inspires Christians anew to realize that their faith indeed appoints them to be the illumined ones in the dark places, even when the world has already decided they are not worth counting. The actor's witness also occupies the position of a great truth. when it asserts that faith is not frailty or ignorance. He shows that real belief is a source of tremendous power. Power to have faith without seeing, to pardon, and to stay put when all around you seems to be falling apart. Caviezel would be the manifestation of this power, since it has been his lot to go through the mill and yet come out stronger, through a rewarding relationship with Christ that is firm even though he may not be worldly praised. Jim Caviezel is not distinguished solely by his speech, but rather by his suffering and his ongoing process of suffering. His faith has been a price he has paid in his career, social life, and emotional stability. Nevertheless, it has provided him with great clarity and a sense of direction that is sought by many but found by few. His tale is a constant reminder that faith is not an easy way out, but rather a defiant stand against hopelessness and despair. His sound stands for others who are to live a life of courage and authenticity, and that, too, without any faith. In a society that is drowning in noise, confusion, and skepticism, Caviezel's witness is a strong pointer that faith rooted in experience, sacrifice, and love is still pertinent and transformational. Jim Caviezel's journey reminds us that faith isn't passive. It's forged through courage, sacrifice, and unwavering conviction. His life challenges us to stand firm when it's costly, speak truth without fear, and live out what we believe. If this story encouraged you, show your support by liking this video, subscribing to more inspiring testimonies, and continuing the journey by watching the next video appearing on your screen now.